Hi everybody, welcome to another video, and today I wanted to share something with you that I was feeling inspired by. This is somewhat off the cuff, so I don't know how it's going to go. It might be terrible, but let's just see where this goes. Basically, it's to do with the expectations that are set up of surrounding pregnancy and birth that are perpetuated through language that we use around these topics. So I'll begin with a little story. At this current time in filming, I don't know when I'm going to put this up, but at this current time in filming, I am 28 weeks today. So on my phone, I have an app called What to Expect, and it's a very well-known app. Week on week it delivers a little article and tells you about what's going on with this week. And I mostly use it just to I'm interested to know how the development of the baby is going at this point. But I read through the bit that says your body at week 28, and I read it and I just couldn't help but think how negative it was, and how, although I understand, obviously, having been pregnant now for a second time, that there are aspects about pregnancy that are not comfortable and that can be difficult, and that yes, some women have experienced a lot of symptoms that are not comfortable to do with pregnancy. But I just felt like the language used in this particular article was really negative, so I'll just see if I can find some. Now your baby's kicking or lack of is keeping you up at night and worried during the day. Your feet are swollen, you're getting tired all over again, and your backache is a pain that just won't quit. And it's not really talking about, all of these things are possible and you might be experiencing these things. It's talking about it like you absolutely are, and that they are problems. As she gets settled into proper, you hope, position for birth, her head and your enlarging uterus may rest on the sciatic nerve in the lower part of your spine. And if that happens, you may feel sharp shooting pain, tingling or numbness that starts in your buttocks and radiates down the back of your legs, otherwise known as sciatica. So that's slightly better because it's saying that, this can happen. But the thing that I really have trouble with in that particular paragraph is, as she gets settled into proper, brackets, you hope, position for birth. So that implies that there is a possibility that your baby won't get into proper position for birth, and that that's something to worry about. Now obviously, optimal fetal positioning is great. If the baby's in a really good position for birth, that makes things easier. But it sort of makes you feel like anything different is bad, and that it can't be rectified, and that there's no way that you can give birth to this baby if they're not in the right position, and that if they're not in the right position right now, that they won't ever come into the right position. So then I posted something on Facebook because I felt quite, enraged by this, I suppose. I've been doing a lot of research and a lot of reading about how negative influences can impact the physiology, so the physical process of pregnancy and giving birth, and how hard I am trying to remove myself from those typical influences. And that's the other thing that really annoys me, is that these are typical. This is a very normal article which is served to millions of pregnant women because they choose to download this app, and the language is absolutely appalling. It sets them up to expect problems. I posted, "The language surrounding pregnancy and birth is so interesting. The more I read typical articles to do with these topics, the more I see it. Obviously, pregnancy can be uncomfortable and difficult, but it doesn't have to be. I wonder how much of it could be due to the stereotypes that surround it, perpetuated by the language. And if the language was different, how might women experience pregnancy then? The current language basically sets women up to expect problems, which is teaching fear. And we all know how much influence fear can have on our minds and bodies." Hopefully I'm making sense, but I feel like the traditional language and the typical stereotypical language that you find surrounding birth and pregnancy are generally quite negative. You know, you are expected to be uncomfortable, that you aren't sleeping, you've got swollen ankles, you're probably anemic, your baby's kicking your cervix, it's uncomfortable. And it takes away what an ultimately positive and wonderful thing being able to grow another human being is. And yeah, you know, I would say that I'm not as comfortable as I normally would be if I wasn't pregnant, but I really don't dwell on those problems. I'm doing what I can to avoid those problems but I just generally don't think about them. So I post that on Facebook, and then I scroll down, and I'm part of a vegan pregnancy and parenting group on Facebook, which is great because it's really helpful just to get other women who are going through the same thing in one place. And I scroll down and I see somebody's posted an article which is like 5 positions to help you ease the pain of labour. And she said in her little comment, she was like, "I'm doing my best to prepare, but I am so scared." And if you enter into something like labour and birth with that expectation that it will hurt and that you are going to be in pain, you will fear it. It's very natural to fear pain, and it is a response. So when you are fearful, you go into this sort of fight or flight mode, which is very instinctive, and it comes from right at the back of your brain here. And your body's response is to increase your adrenaline, which sometimes can not be helpful. There are instances where adrenaline is helpful, but there are times actually where you really don't need adrenaline, and birth is one of them. You need different hormones to be circulating in your blood when you're going through birth in order to make it more and to make it easier. I don't know, I'm just generally feeling quite annoyed by this. It's a subject that I have always been interested in, the way that language can shape our ideas and our thoughts and possibly, change our perspectives. I'm definitely finding that this is working for me. Changing the language that's surrounding these topics really helps me deal with, what I want from this experience. And it's starting to make me wonder about using this technique for other areas of my life, which perhaps I have been using the wrong language around. In particular, the one that springs to mind is money and earning money. And basically, the language that we use is so important because it teaches our subconscious specific stories about how we feel about things. So even though you might not consciously be taking something in, your subconscious is always working and it's always absorbing whatever you're giving it, whatever you're surrounding yourself with. So I think that in particular with the subject of money, I have taught myself that I am not worth the money. I'm not able to earn money for myself, that nobody wants to pay for the things that I'm good at, and therefore that becomes true. We are a result of the stories that we tell ourselves, but the good news is that we are actually able to alter those stories and change them and make them into something more positive, and therefore change our thinking and therefore change our biochemistry and so on and so forth. And it's like a positive feedback loop that just happens if we alter our mindset. And this is really what it's all about, is changing your mindset is the first step in changing anything. What we think influences how we feel, and it influences our actions. Do you see what I mean? Hopefully this is interesting to a lot of you. I'm sorry if it's not, but shouldn't really be sorry. Those are my thoughts surrounding language and the language that we use to describe pregnancy and birth, and then also just the language that we use day to day and the kind of expectations that it sets up for ourselves and for other people. So if you have something interesting to add, or you just want to make a comment, then do so below in the comments section. I do read all of them and I will get back to you. So stay tuned for more videos in the future, and I'll be back with another one really soon. Bye guys!